So hello everyone, today we are going to present generic class and generic method to you all in Java programming, and my part is generic method and her part is generic class. So let's start.
Yeah, if you ever wonder how Java handles multiple data types using a single code, this video is exactly for you. So by end of this video, you will clearly understand what generics are, why we use them, and how they're making code easier and safer. So let's get started. Okay, so now we'll further start to introduction to generics. Now, this topic comes under object-oriented programming using Java. So let's first understand what generics are. In Java, generics allow us to write the classes, interfaces, methods, or interface that can work with different data types. Instead of writing separate codes for integers, strings, or doubles, we can write one common code using generics. So this makes our program more reusable, more readable, and type safe. For example, a single class can store integer values, string values, and float values. So instead of writing multiple classes, we just write on. Now we'll further move to definition of generics. Okay, so now let's define generics properly. Generics means parameterizing data types. This means we can pass a data type as a parameter to a class or method. So here is the syntax. So class name, T. Here the T stands for type and it can represent any data type like integer, string, float, etc. Now these are the symbols: T type, E element, key, K key, V value. Now, what is generic class? A generic class is a class that can work with different data types. Instead of fixing the data type, we use a placeholder using written as T, which is decided at the time of object creation. So think of it like a container. You don't decide what goes inside while creating the box. You decide it later when you use it. So here's the syntax explanation. So the syntax of the generic class is a class box T, the T value. Here, the T represent any data type. It can be integer, string, double, character, etc. Okay, so key points of generic class is that they increase code reusability, they provide compile time checking, they reduce the need for typecasting, they improve program efficiency, and they make code cleaner and easier to understand. Now let's see a simple Java program using a generic class. So first we create a generic class named box. It has a variable value of type T and it has a method set value to store data and also have a method get value to return data. So one for store data and one for return data. So in the main method, we can create an object of the type integer. So box integer b1 and store the value of 100. Now, then we create another object of type string. Now box string b2 and store value hello. Now, the output will be 100 and hello. This proves that the same class works with the different data types. Okay, so now this is a comparison table. Without generics, we need separate code for each data type, more chance of errors, code duplications difficult to maintain. And with generics, single reusable code, type safe, less code and easy to maintain. So generics makes our code more efficient, safe and reusable. So now that we understand generic class in the next part, and we will explore generic methods and how they works in Java. Thank you.
So guys, I'll be presenting generic method to you all. So what is generic method? Let's understand this in a simple words. So a generic method is a method that can work with different types of data like integers, strings or double. Instead of writing separate methods for each data type, we write one flexible method using something called as a type parameter, and it is denoted by the symbol T. So basically, generic method allows method parameters to be flexible. It accepts any type of values and performs the same operation. This avoids writing multiple overloaded methods. So the syntax is clearly given over here. You all can look it. Then next are the key points of generic methods. So now let's look at some important points about generic methods. They work with different data types. For example, strings, doubles, floats. We can use multiple data types with just one method without creating multiple methods. It uses a type parameter such as t. The type parameter is written before the return type. So before the return type, we just write this over there, and after that we write the return type. It increases code reusability. So we can reuse the code without writing it again and again. For example, if first I want the code to work on strings, so I can write for the strings, then I can just use it for float or double, so I don't have to rewrite the code again and again. It reduces the need for multiple overloaded methods, which is just that I explained above. It provides compile time checking, so the checking is over compile time and not runtime. It improves type safety and reduces errors. So errors can be reduced, and safety of the code can be maintained. It can be used with primitive wrapper classes. So we can use it for wrapper classes, which are primitive wrapper classes like integer, double, etc. The same method can accept string, integer, float, character, etc. It means that it can accept any value like string, integer, float, character. It makes code cleaner and easier to maintain, as there is no overloaded method, so it is cleaner and maintained easily, and it is much clearer to read and use. So moving on to the next slide. So the first program on generic method is this one, where we just make the class demo, and then we make the public parameter t, and then void display t data. So here basically void display is the return type. Void means none return type, so we are not returning anything for now, so we have just written void. And public is its class, so it's a public class. And then system.printout.println data, so we are printing data. Then we just create main class, and we write public class main, public static void main string args, which is the standard line for each and every code. And then we create object for the class demo, which we made above. So then we make demo d is equal to new demo. So here we created an object for demo class. Then we are displaying the demo class, so we just do d dot display, which is object d dot display, which is the method created in class demo. So this class demo is a generic method. So here we can print different data types, as you all can see. It's d.display 10, d.display java, d.display 5.5, which are different values. Like 10 is integer, java is string, and 5.5 is our float or double value. So we can display all this from this method display, which is a generic method. So the output here you can see is 10 java 5.5, and same method works for integer, string, and double. So moving on to the next slide. So now we are going to look on working of generics. So generic class, then we go to type parameter, object creation, specific data type assigned, and execution. So this is the basic working of generics, how generics work, and it is very simple and easy to understand. That's why I also attached some pictures for you to understand it easily. So basically here we made a box t, which is class. So basically it is a class box, and inside it we are doing box integer. So which is so the t is replaced by integer, so now it stores integer. So if we want to store string, we can just write string over there. If we want to store float, then we can write float over there. So that's how it works, and we can use it multiple times. Moving on to next slide, applications of generics. Generics are widely used in Java collection framework. So example are array list. So array list is a widely used topic in our syllabus, where generics are used. So let's go on and see one example on generic that is used in array list. So first we will just put on scanner class, which is import java.utl.arraylist. Then we will create a public class main, and inside it we will just write public static void main string args, and then we will create an object which is array list string names is equal to new array list. So array lists are basically predefined classes in Java, and now we are storing string inside it, and we have just created string and names as object. So new array list names. Then we will do names dot add Rahul. Then we will do names dot add Aman, so it will print them. And then we can just do system dot out dot println names. So this was the basic program on array list, which uses the application of generics. So here's how we know generics are very important for us syllabus wise and in real life wise. Real life uses our student record systems, banking application, data storage systems, inventory management, and e-commerce application. So we just saw how generic is used in real life and in Java. So basically we covered the usage of generics in our syllabus and in real life. So let's move on to the next slide. So now we will just look on to the advantages of generics. So as I mentioned earlier too, this is very used advantage, which is reusability of code. We can reuse the code, we don't have to rewrite it, we can save time, we can save our space, method and everything by just reusing the code. And this also helps in creating lesser errors, as we just wrote the code one time and we can use it again and again, so less errors are there, better performance, easy debugging, better readability as it is small and we don't have to override methods again and again, and it is safer. So let's move on to the next slide, which is finally the conclusion slide. So the conclusion is generics in Java make programming easier and safer. So in Java programming, due to generics, programs gets easier and safer, and they help in writing flexible and reusable code. So we can write codes that are flexible and reusable, and both generic classes and methods are important in modern Java programming. We can't imagine Java programming without generic classes and generic methods. It is that important because there are many concepts that uses these both concepts together or singly, but yeah, it's very important as it works in many concepts like array list and all. So they are heavily used in collections, which is array list again, array list collection, which are predefined data types or classes, then frameworks, APIs, real world software systems. So yeah, that's all for our slide, and thanks for your attention. Any questions, please search in Google. Thank you so much.